Hi, I'm Charles Douglas-Osborn, and today I'm going to take you through creating a Chrome extension using ChatGPT, with the idea being that the Chrome extension is both powered by ChatGPT, and I'm going to write most of the code using ChatGPT to kind of do that for myself. So a little bit about me. I've created Chrome extensions for about 10 years now. I work at a B2B market research firm called NewtonX, and at there we've also been using AI for a number of years now. And so I thought it'd be a fun exercise to build a new Chrome extension for research purposes very quickly and easily, and sort of share how I was able to do that using ChatGPT to sort of solve those problems. During the video, I've already finished it, so it took me about 2 hours. There are a couple of times I got a little confused, and ChatGPT didn't quite solve my problems for myself, so I was able to use my own knowledge to solve it, but I thought it might be interesting for you guys to see how I actually went for it. So without further ado, let me take you through the video and you can see how it comes along. All right, so first things first, we've got to figure out what we're actually building. And so the idea of what we're going to do today is we're going to build a very simple Chrome extension which calls OpenAI, and basically it does two things. One is on every web page, it's going to create a little circle sort of like area, which will hopefully look a little bit like Siri, and if you press on it, it will basically summarize everything that's on that page in 1 or 2 paragraphs. And another thing is that if you highlight a word or a series of words, it will create a pop-up just above it, and it will give you a definition of what that is. So kind of like a Google built into the browser as well. Before we get there, I also wanted to design a sort of way for us to make sure the API functions are working correctly. That's what we're going to use a new tab experience for, to make this a little bit easier while we're sort of like doing testing. And so what we're just going to do is first of all build an input area here. You press the submit button. It then outputs each of the ChatGPT responses from the system as well. So that's the goal to get started. So let's jump over to ChatGPT and get this going. So first thing we need to do is create a manifest file. Think of a manifest file as kind of like a guide to what the Chrome extension should do, when it should operate, when it shouldn't operate, etc. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to ask ChatGPT to create a manifest file. So create a manifest file for a Chrome extension v3, which is the latest type of Chrome extension. So we're going to create a manifest file for Chrome extension v3, which has a background script, a content script, and a new tab HTML file. Let's see what we got. Awesome. So it's outputted all of the details for me here. We can just grab this here. I'm just going to grab this here. We can just press this copy code. And we're going to come here and we're going to create a new file called manifest. Create a new file, manifest.json. Great file. And now we're just going to paste that in and save that. Cool. So if we want to now, we could actually, this is actually all you need to first create a Chrome extension. It's not going to work, but we can go into Chrome here, go to Chrome:/extensions. We can click load unpack extension here. I can go into my folder here, into my projects folder, Chrome extension here, select the folder. You see that although we're able to upload, get the manifest file, it's obviously looking for some additional files, and so it's not working. So let's create those now. So we're just going to create a new file called background.js. I'm going to create a new file called content.js. Let's look at our manifest file here. There's also a pop-up HTML file here. So we're going to create a new pop-up.html file here. And then there's also a new tab file here too. So we're going to do new tab.html there. come back here. There's also some image files here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if ChatGPT can create those. I don't think it can create image files. Can you create image files? Unfortunately not. But luckily, we can say, where can I go to get icons, get PNG icons for Chrome extensions? All right, it's given us some icon file places here. Let's see if we go to icon finder. Icon finder here. We're going to create, so let's search for an AI icon. Artificial intelligence. This will work. We want to download, what do we need? We need a 16 and a 32. Looks like the smallest here, 16. Download this. 32, download this. We will grab these here, copy these over into Visual Studio Code, and we should be able to paste, but for some reason it's not letting me paste. Let's go to my downloads folder here. Downloads. Downloads folder. Grab these two icons. Got them here. I'm going to rename these icon16.png. I'm going to name this one icon32.png. Let's go back to Chrome into our extensions and click retry. And so we have loaded up our Chrome extension for the first time. It's just called My Extension right now. So let's give this a nicer name for now, called ChatGPT Chrome extension. And we're going to call this a research Chrome extension, as that is the main goal of what we're after here. Come back here, just click this refresh icon, and that's done that. And now if I open a new tab, you'll notice that it's Google will actually ask me if I'm okay with switching over to this new one, so I'm going to say keep it. And so now every time I refresh this Chrome extension, it's going to close that new tab, but if I open a new tab, it's going to bring up this white page, and that's because this white page is this new tab.html here. I'm going to go to new tab.html here and write a header here called hello world. Just going to save this, refresh the page, and now we can see that says hello world. All right, so if we go back to our design here, we want to have an input box and a response from ChatGPT here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to now ask it, create a HTML file which has an text area input box, a header above it which says input your request below, a button below which when clicked will send the input of the text area to an OpenAI API request for ChatGPT 3.5 and add to the end of the page the response back from OpenAI. Let's see how we do. Perfect. So we can just grab this HTML code, paste this in here, click save. We're going to refresh the page. I'm going to write hello, and nothing's going to happen, and that's because right now we haven't actually included our bearer token. So we actually need to go to OpenAI and get a bearer token from them. So let's before we do that, this looks a little rubbish. So let's say please create some CSS to make the above look better. We can put that request in here, and it's given us some nice CSS here. So we can grab this, or we can do this copy code button. Now let's add some CSS here. I believe we can just do style, just paste this in. Let's go back to our thing, and this has made it slightly better. It's made a few little issues here, which we can fix later on, but it does obviously now look significantly better than it did before. So you can see it's got this input, we've got this send message, now we've got this area where we're going to add the responses to the page going forward. All right, so now we need to go to OpenAI and create an account. So what we need to do is we need to open AI developer portal. So let's do this. OpenAI. Okay, so we want to log in. I'm going to log in with my Google account. Cool. And now I want to build an application that does, let's select chat. All right, but now I need to actually create an account here. So tell me how I'm going to create an account. View API keys. Here we go. So we're now going to create a new secret. We're going to call this ChatGPT secret. Create secret. Copy this. Hopefully I remember to hide this from everybody else here. I'm going to create a new file called environment. Dot. I'm going to call this keys.env file. And I'm going to just write my open AI key equals, paste that in and save that. Now what I want to do is go back to OpenAI here, and I want to ask them, instead of listing the code above, instead of requiring the bearer token to be in the code, instead take it from an environmental file called, what did I call it? I called it keys.env, where inside that file it says open AI key equals my bearer token. Awesome. So it's basically the same. The difference is here we are getting a file from here. So we go back to our new tab area here. And before this JavaScript here, I'm going to save that, but this OpenAI key, put in here, save that, come back in here, refresh our page. Hi. Alright, I think I called this the wrong thing. Hopefully I remember to remove that. Hi. Send request. Okay, that is still not working. And that is because we're not allowed to do inline JavaScript. So let's go back to OpenAI here and see what we can do. The page above is actually for a Chrome extension, which doesn't allow for inline JavaScript. Please rewrite it to work as a Chrome extension. Extension, new tab. Let's see how it does. All right. So what it's getting us to do is create a new JavaScript file called script.js. And we're going to grab the code from our new tab area here. Grab all of this. Remove that. Paste it into here. Remove this script completely from the page there. Then we're going to go back into here. We need to include our script on the page. We can put at the bottom here. Save that. And we're actually going to use style.js file here instead. And we're going to create a new file called style.css. Let's make this a little bit more organized. I'm just going to grab our code from here, save that, paste that onto the page. Now let's see how we're doing here. We're still running into problems, so let's take a look if there is anything else that this Chrome extension did. It's asking for permissions of store open tab. Okay, let's see if we've got permissions right now in our manifest file. Alright, so there's two more permissions we want to add here, storage and active tab. Let's see if that will work for us now. We need to refresh this and open a new tab. It's still not working. Let's see. Inline handler. Let's try and figure this out. All right. So this does seem to be running the function. I think we need. That looks like it's better. Let's see if that helps. Event handlers. Okay, so what we're going to do is this is basically calling a function on click. So instead, we're going to give this an ID equals send request. I'm going to remove this for now. I'm just going to add this at the bottom as a comment in case I need to use this function again. But in my, I'm going to move my script.js to the bottom here, and I'm going to grab this, go to my script file, and add here to basically get my element, get element by ID, and we're going to add an event listener, which is for a click. And I run a function, and that function is going to be this send request function. That's false. Click save. Let's see what happens here. Hi. Okay, so our function is run, which is good, but obviously this has not actually worked correctly. So if we go back to our code up here, it did actually change that code to use, go up here, it did actually change this to get a local file here. It's not really what I want, is to create a local file for the Chrome extension. What I want is to, okay, I'm going to create a new file here called keys. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to say window.myKey equals this string. Maybe I'll just replace this string after this token here. Paste my string in here. So I'm going to copy this, put it in here, save this, and I go back into my script. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to instead call the function window.myKey. And then we're going to refresh. We need to include this new JavaScript file called keys.js. So let's go to my new tab. I'm going to call this keys.js. Refresh. See if this works. We got an unexpected token here, so there's 27. We've got too many functions here, so we'll save this. I'm going to come back here, refresh the page. Cool. All right. So we got a 401 error for that, but we have actually made a function call to it. I'm going to check the network calls to see if it did include our bearer token, which it did, but it actually meant to include bearer plus my key. So let's refresh this. Got a 404 error this time. The model DaVinci does not exist, so let's go back to OpenAI here and ask it, that model doesn't exist. What is the latest model from ChatGPT? Alright, we're getting an error. Let's refresh the page here. And now let's ask ChatGPT 4 for a second. Make a JavaScript function that takes in some text from a user and sends it to OpenAI's API to get a response from ChatGPT v3.5 or GPT-4. Alright, unfortunately these will see a little bit slower, so we're just going to wait for these. So this is interesting, it's actually telling us the steps to actually do this. So we're not going to use a third-party provider to send the call. To do, okay, we've got our API key there. All right. Great. All right, so this is let's try using this model. So let's see, this is V1 engines DaVinci Codex completions. That's the correct thing. And the data it's sent is the prompt, max tokens, 100 temperature. Let's just do 1. N equals 1. Let's try that. Oh, we've already got n equals 1 there. Let's try using this to see if that will work here. Okay, we're going to refresh, send A, we still get. Alright, so this is one of the downsides of using something like ChatGPT, is that it obviously kind of goes out of date. So let's go to OpenAI Developer Documentation, ChatGPT. Okay, let's see if you're going to include. Okay, so we're just going to change this to this. Let's see if this works now. Page, tell me a joke. You exceeded your quota. Please check your plan and billing details. All right, so we're getting somewhere. So now let's go to our OpenAI developer page that we were on before. Let's go to my API keys. These are personal, which is correct. Set up a paid account. I'm an individual. And now I have to do this. Now that that's worked, tell me a joke. Okay. All right. So sorry about that, but we're now back. Turns out there is a separate API for OpenAI, which I did not necessarily realize when we started doing this, but luckily we were able to figure these things out. So there's a separate API here for completions. We've got our model here, GPT-3 Turbo, and we can send over our content, as well as passing some other variables over to it as well. And then we get a object back with choices, an array of choices, and then a message, and then content. So let's go here for, we've got choices, and then instead of .text now it's .message, and then .content. So we'll save that. So you see here we've now changed this to pass over this JSON file here, and we've updated this content in here. Now we're going to refresh the page here to tell me a joke. Send our request. Why did the tomato turn red? Because it was the salad dressing. So finally we have now figured out and sent over our API call, and now we've given it an area. Now we can ask it, why does it take so long to build Chrome extensions? Send this the request. Takes a little bit of time to complete. And then here we go. It's giving some factors as to why Chrome extensions can take a while to select build. All right, so we have now basically built our V1 getting things going. Now what we've got to do is actually set up the real Chrome extension that we want to actually create. Okay, so first things first, we're going to create a content script. So what is a content script? A content script is basically injected onto every single page. You can select it so that it only works on certain pages, but what we're going to do actually is build this so that it works on every single page. And what we're going to ask ChatGPT to do is, first of all, create a little circle object in the bottom right corner that appears on every single page and looks like Siri. So let's come back here and say, I'm just going to refresh the page, start a new chat. So what I'm going to do is create a content script for a Chrome extension that appears on every page. A circle in the bottom right of the corner that animates and looks like Siri. Once it is clicked, it should make a call to the background script, sending over the what would be the sending over, what we wanted to do is not send over just the HTML of the page. We wanted to send over the sort of the main content. Send over the main content of the page, and then once it gets a return back from the background script, it should open a pop-up box above the circle with the response that has a close button on it. Okay, that was quite a lot. Let's see how it does. All right, it's basically giving me my answer back. Okay, so it's creating a circle, so this is good. It's creating it in the bottom right by 20 pixels, which is great. Setting a z-index, which is good, so make sure that it's across. It's actually decided to use a GIF to do it instead of the CSS to do it. And now what it's doing is it's creating the pop-up box, but it's getting the pop-up box to not display, which is great. It's including a pop-up, a close button here, which is nice. It just says the word close, and it's added it to the pop-up box, which is great. And when you click it, it grabs the inner text of the body, and then sends that over to the background script. And when it gets a response, it returns all of that over, which is great. And this is even said that it expects a background script back. So let's grab this and add it to our content.js file from before. Save that, which is great. And it's included the content script as well, which is great. Cool. I don't overly like that it's just using a GIF here. So I'm just going to change this to, for now, just include a background color for this. So we're just going to, and we'll ask it later on to do a better job of that. But for now, we're just going to do this, set a background color to be, let's make it white. And we're going to then have a border. I'm actually just going to steal this border from here and have a border around it as well. Click Save. Great. So now, open a new page. Let's just go to the BBC. Then it doesn't look like it's created this widget yet. So let's close this down and refresh the page. Now let's go to example.com, and it has not injected it onto the page yet. Let's take a look and see, cannot access pop-up box before it's been initialized. So let's go back here. This was my fault. I did a bad copy and paste. Come back here, click refresh. We might need to close this down. Now let's refresh content. Here we go. We got our thing here, which we click. It's not able to find a send a function right now, but we have a circle icon on the bottom here, which is great. Okay, so we've now got our button here. So now let's go back to here, and we're going to say, please create the background script for the above, which makes an API call to OpenAI and then returns the response to the content script. Cool. So now this is going to create that for us. It's even told us again about the importance of OpenAI. Actually, right now, I'm actually using GPT-4, which is fine. Cool. So it's making the API calls that you see before. It's actually using the fetch API now rather than XHR, including all of those. And then it's sending the response back. And it returns true, which makes sure that it's asynchronous, which is great. Great, and it's actually included that we need to update our permissions to include API OpenAI as well, which is great. My microphone was not in a great position. So I'm going to copy this code here into my background script here. Cool. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to change this a little bit because our script.js, which is where we were playing around before. We're going to change this to the correct area here. We're going to use the bearer token here, which is window my key, which is probably not going to work. So for now, instead of doing that, I'm going to be a little cheeky and grab this key. Just going to put it right in, which is not great, but we can update this later, and I'm going to kill these keys afterwards anyway. And then for the body, the JSON that we send to them is this. Grab here. Paste that in. We get our response, and then our message is not that anymore. Our message is this. Want data dot that, and that includes our message, and that sends our message back to there. Make that a little bit nicer formatting. So now when we open the page here and we click on this, it is still giving us an error there. I think it's because I haven't necessarily set our permissions up. So let's go to our manifest file here. We had let's look at what OpenAI said before for the content script. All URLs, that looks correct. And then here it said the permissions of this, and we also need to update the permissions to include this URL. As well, we've got active tab, and we didn't set the background script here. So this is what are the changes. So right now it's actually giving us details to what are the changes for the manifest file if it is manifest v3. Here we go. So manifest v3, we've got our name as before, description, we've got our permissions. Our permissions need to include scripting. That's probably where the problem is coming from. Permissions, scripting. Scripting there. We've got our service worker as we had before. We've included all these silly icons. Okay, it looks like we also have to. All right. Let's update these, add these in here. Should be good. So now let's refresh our extension here. Refresh the page. Click on it. Still can't read properties of undefined. All right, let's go to our content tab here. Undefined. What was it? There was undefined message. Okay, so it's not actually getting a response back right now. That's because this is what we used to do in. So all of this content up here has been for manifest v2, v2. So we need to say, can you please update the background and content script message functions above to manifest v3. Great, so it turns out this whole time we've been writing, it's been including stuff in v2 versus v3. So really good for us to know the differences. So we can see that there's actually an await function here that sends the message. So I can see that. So we're going to update this now to this. And then we're going to instead, so we've set the message there. And we're just going to remove these lines here, which is great. And then on the background script here, I'm going to grab this background script here, just slightly different. It's got an async function here, you'll see. And then we're returning true, and everything else looks to be roughly the same, which is great. We do send response function, which is correct. Now let's refresh the page, refresh example.com. So our await is only available in things, so let's go back to our contents thing here, and so await has to be in a function, so we have to call this function an async function, which fixes the problem there. Refresh, still not available. So let's see if maybe they already fixed this. So they've done async there, which looks correct. This is looking correct so far. Don't quite see where the problem is coming. Wait. So we added async in here. Yeah, it's still not liking that function for awaiting. We need to refresh. We've got an old version somehow. Click on this. Okay, response.message didn't work. Is that what it said to use response.message? I don't think we actually... Okay, we didn't get response.message, so let's go back to our background file. These both seem to include messages, so what we're now going to do is check our service worker here, which is basically what happens when we call this function. So let's refresh this, refresh the page, and now this doesn't seem to have called anything. So that's not great. Okay. Let's go back here. Runtime sent message. This all looks correct. Alright, we're not using that, we're using this. Alright, let's make sure we're actually using the background here, service worker there. Let's look at back to here with our background. Up here, when we looked at the permissions, got scripting, set our service worker there. It's all looking correct. Let's just close down example. Open up here and go to example.com. Got a little widget here. Still getting the same problem. Do you have a service worker here? Input is not defined. Okay. So let's go back to our background here. It's saying input is not defined. We don't have input on this page. There we go. Input here. So this is the main content. All right. Refresh the page. Go to example.com. Can't read properties of undefined still. Let's open up our service worker. Can't read property of undefined 0. Okay, so we've made a mistake with the data that we're getting back. Doesn't seem to have choices. So let's come here and console out data. I have a feeling it might be data dot. Don't know actually. Let's take a look. Refresh the page. Refresh this. Click on the page. We get our error. Click on our service workers. And we can see our object is error. You didn't provide an API key. Alright, that's because I've not included bearer again in front of my function here. So now we're going to refresh the page again. See, there's a lot of refreshing that happens with these areas. Go back to our service worker here. Okay, so we did get a response. Problem is, it's trying to get the message. Choices 0. Cool. Okay, so we're getting a response. We're just not showing it here yet. Okay, so now I'm going to click on this, and it's still getting this error. So let's go back to this function on the content, and it's basically not awaiting this send message. So let's go back and see in our Siri extension here. So we async, we await for a message, and it's response.message. This looks, maybe if we add this into a try catch, so we'll do a try, and then the catch here, which is probably a good practice anyway, sending this. Now refresh the page, refresh examples.com. On this, and it's still not awaiting. Right here, and we're still getting that the message was closed before. All right. The other option is to send a message and then await a message in the Chrome extension here too. So what I'm going to change this all now to is, so I'm going to give up on how they've done it here, and instead what we're going to do is we're going to Chrome runtime.onMessage, which I think is actually, if we go to the background here. So we're going to add this here. And then on a message from here, we're going to write if the request.method is equal to summary response, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, this is going to be a pop-up box. We're going to do request.message equals this. I'm going to save that for now, and then instead of this stuff here, we're just literally just going to send the message. I'm not going to do anything with the response. All right, I'm going to close this down, send the message as need be, and then here we're going to send the message back Yeah, so instead of this stupid thing which isn't working, we're going to send the message here, and we're going to send the method. We're going to use the same thing here, which is summary response. And then we're going to, on the content, we're going to send this message. And it's going to be, I think it's just message. We just wanted the message. All right, we're going to send the message to it. This is not ideal at all, but I'm getting fed up with how this is working. So I'm just going to do this my own way. Click on this. Okay, so nothing happened, which is fine. I'm going to go to our service worker. Receiving end does not exist. So, let's go back to our content thing here, which is, let's just ask here, how does a content script get a message from a service worker Yeah, that's what I did. Let's see. You see, I think that's, no, that's the same what I just did here. We have to include a tab ID. Okay, there we go. So, because the background script can talk to multiple tabs, change that here. A refresh page, click on here. Then, apparently nothing's going to happen. Let's look in the service worker here. Click on this button for the service worker. Okay, we couldn't get the active tab. That's probably a permissions problem. We have the active tab there. The other option is when you get a request, I believe you get the tab ID sender. How do you get the tab ID from the sender object? Yep, perfect. Cool. Here we go. So we're going to just send this instead. We don't need current active tab. What we should be doing is just sending it, because we might ask a summary for a different page, and we actually want to send this message along here. So let's refresh the page here. Refresh the page here. Then, with any luck, we should get a little pop-up here. Try clicking it again. Close this one down. Completed. Alright, so let's go back to the content script here. Let's just output here, response from the service worker. Do request sender as well. All right. Now we're gonna refresh this page. Going to close down this and open up the service worker here. Click on this. Got the response. So we got a response from the service worker, and it didn't include anything. So we'll go back to our background here. How do we send? Maybe I've not passed it along in the right area. Let's look here, and we send a message up here. Send a message with the tab ID. What is the message? It's not great that we're calling everything message. Const message back. And then let's pass this message back here. Console.log. Sending message back. Okay. Refresh the page. Click on this. Let's see, hopefully we got a message back from the service worker, but it is an empty response. Let's see what I got from the service worker here. Sending undefined, so we're not actually sending anything. So this isn't returning anything. So what chances are, it's our network call. So we get choices, then message, choice is 0, then message, then content. Choice is 0, message, we copied this from before, .content. Here we go. Now, we're going to click on this, and a few seconds later, we got a response, but our pop-up did not appear. So for two reasons. One is we didn't send the method over, which is this. I'm going to pass this message over here, save that, refresh the page. No, we need to refresh the extension, sorry. Now refresh the page, click on this, and now we actually got the response. Click close. Now if we go to another website, Microsoft.com, for instance, this little thing still appears. Don't need that. Don't need that either. I'm going to click on this. And a few seconds later, we got a response. And it's told us a little bit about the page as well. Cool. So definitely some improvements that we can obviously do to the user experience. But for now let's set up when you select some content on the page. So now let's ask ChatGPT here. Write a Chrome extension which detects when something is highlighted and when it is, it passes it back to the service worker, and when it gets a response, it shows a pop-up window. Response, it shows a pop-up. Checks when something is highlighted. When it is, it passes back to the service worker what is currently highlighted it gets a response, it shows a pop-up window. We were going to do it above, but I think that might be more annoying. So instead, let's do that for now. Shows a pop-up window. Just pop-up window, pop-up div right above the highlighted text, which has shows a pop-up window right above the highlighted text with the response, which has a close button and also automatically closes when the user clicks away or when it is not when the text is not highlighted anymore. All right, we said Chrome extension. I meant to say a content script, but that's okay. So it's going to actually include a number of other things as well. But this is good because it means that we're making sure that the manifest file is not, if there are any changes to the manifest file, which it doesn't look like right now there is, it has included a nice styles.css area here, which I think right now in our content script, all of the styling is actually done in the JavaScript, when we could have done a better job of that by actually in our area here included the style.css here, which is a little bit nicer. The downside of including that CSS as a separate file here is if you call them the same names as what's on the page, you can cause a conflict and actually override the styling there. But that's not a bad idea there. And now they're actually including the CSS here as an area. So we're going to copy this JavaScript on the page to content.here. This is actually, I think, called some things the same. It actually hasn't called them the same, so that's lucky. So here, and it's grabbed them, and it's actually calculating the areas as well to do it. Now, similar to before, this has also problem with this is before is it's also using that send message thing, which for some reason wasn't working before. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change this like we did last time to just send the message. I'm going to remove this stuff. Okay, and then we're going to grab this function here. And then we're going to, so we've done that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a new function here, else if request.method equals highlighted definition. I'm going to grab all that stuff there. And then we're going to change this to request.method here. And one thing we're going to now do, so we've sent that over. Now if we go back to our background script here, when we sent the message, we either have main content or we want to grab our request, and in our content script here, when this passed over the data down here on our selection, it actually called them highlighted text instead of the other one where it was content. So what we can do is we can send either of these over. So this just says if this, then use that. If not, then we can do if request.content. So it came from that window there, from the bottom right hand button. If not, if there's a request dot highlighted text here, we can add that here. And now what we're going to do instead is we're going to send this new function, highlighted definition, over and include the message back into the area there too. Now the difference is one of the things I want to change about this is when we send the highlighted text, we're going to change the prompt here to please define what is, and then the selected text that's defined. Or rather, let's change this to please tell me what is, and then the selected text. And then when we were sending the message over before, if we go into this background here too, we sent over the main content, and in the content here, please tell me what, and then when we sent them into content here, we should be like, please give me a summary of what is on summary of this. And we're going to include the main content there. Cool. Alright, so now let's refresh the page. We didn't include the CSS file. That's okay. So if we come back here to our CSS, because I don't overly like this, we're going to change these. I'm just going to copy these over for now. Actually, please change from using a CSS file to instead writing the styling in JavaScript. Let's see. Great, so the manifest file is going to be exactly the same as before. And what's interesting is that it's also really nicely given it I didn't notice this before, a nice name and a description as well. So here we go. So this is now, instead of that CSS file from before, which we're now going to get rid of, here, it's doing the styling for us when it created these objects, which is really nice. So I'm just going to wait for this to finish working. Cool. So now we can copy this CSS here. Let's go to the content script here where it created those objects for us here. So we're going to change this to this. Here we really shouldn't have an ID. We don't use this ID, so I'm going to remove. Actually, so right now we're going to create this pop-up up here at the top because we actually use it in a function down here. I'm going to remove this ID from that area too. So now we come back here and that looks like fine. Now I'm going to refresh the page. Let's go to example.com as that's a little bit less cluttered. Now I'm going to highlight this, and then close button's already been declared, so we've used close button twice, which doesn't overly surprise me because we use the close button here. So we'll call this close button highlighted. Just quickly change these over. And then click refresh. Close button's already been declared. Where else am I using close button? Close button there. think that's actually correct. Let me make sure this is refreshed. Okay, now we'll highlight examples. Interesting. So we actually got multiple responses. So interesting. I don't know why we're getting so many responses. It might be so it looks like, let's just see if this still works as well. Cool. Okay. So let's fix that, and then we're going to improve the styling a little bit. And then I think we might be able to call it a day. So it's including multiple responses. So let's look in the extension in the service worker here. Okay, so it is sending. Let's look at the network calls. Let's see if we're, like, before we do that, let's look in our background script here and see if we're sending this once or if it's multiple times. So sending the following, and then we're going to main content over, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to just output out the data from OpenAI. I'm gonna refresh, come here, click on this, which is fine, that works as expected. And then if we come here and just highlight documents, so it looks like it's the front end. Is it the front end? Please tell me what is documents. Okay. So what we need to do is change our content script, and basically when you're firing off those responses, the ordering that you get the responses back are not necessarily great. So we want to change this from selections change. So can you update the above from selection change the content script right now fires off too many calls. Instead, can you update the, what is it called? The selection change to wait until the mouse, what would you say? The mouse is, you want it sort of, the click is off until the mouse, until the highlight, until, wait. Can you please update the selection to wait until the person has finished highlighting the content on the page? All right, so I think what it's probably going to do so what it's going to do is basically wait and make sure that the person's truly finished. not truly finished. It's actually just it's gonna wait like a few like seconds or so to see. Let's see. Let's grab this at least. I think the idea is we can have this debouncer function. It's gonna run. It's now changed everything to be in this handle change function, which I don't think we had before. To this, and then add this to it. Cool. So what this is doing now is it's basically waiting up to 500 milliseconds for the person to actually finish like highlighting the area. And if it's more than 500 seconds, it will make that function call. If it's less than 500 milliseconds, it's going to keep waiting around. So let's refresh the page. Come here to examples.com. Going to highlight documents. And now it should only make one function back. And it gives me the details there of what documents refer to. We click the close button. Cool. So let's finally make the CSS of this a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to please create some CSS that makes, please create with pure JavaScript a circle that animates like the Siri, Let's see what happens with this. All right, so it's setting up just an HTML page as normal. Now we're going to use some canvas, which is more interesting. So it's setting up a circle. These colors, interesting. All right. Great, so I'm going to grab this, and we've got up here our animated circle. I'm going to paste this in, and we're going to change this to be called animated circle. Add this to the page. Now I'm going to hide all of that JavaScript. So we add this to the page. We're going to set the width of this to be, actually, this isn't a bad idea. I'm going to just copy these from this. Change this to this. Then I'm going to change these to be the same. I want a pointer as well. Okay. Let's let's see how that looks like. I don't think I need to refresh the page, do I? Maybe I do. Refresh the Chrome extension. Okay, so where are you? Where's my little thing? Don't see it there. Okay, that's not correct. Let me... so this, in their one, they used this idea is called canvas to do it, but instead we're actually going to, after all that, I'm going to do this, and then I'm just going to do this, and then style.width. These are the same here. I think I still need to set a width and a height, or this isn't going to work correctly. Let's take a look. Okay, so we have something here right now. Doesn't really look anything like Siri. And now let's look in here. It was actually a canvas, so let's create a canvas. And then we're going to refresh this. Refresh the page. So we have this canvas here. I think I need to actually set width equals 50px, and then the height to equal 50px. Let's try this now. How are we doing? Okay. Now I did change a couple of other things in this. So I also set the canvas width and height to be this. So let's try. Let's try this. See if that works. Be surprised. You never know. Yeah, canvas is not defined. Use canvas anywhere else. Canvas. We have one more. Cool. All right. Refresh the page. So we have a canvas. There is something happening in there, which is interesting. I might want to remove this for now. Refresh this. Okay. So let's have a look to see what it's trying to do. So there's 4 different colors. Here. If I change this for now to this, let's see if it's big, if that helps things. It doesn't matter if it's giant for now. Okay. So for some reason it's only creating one thing. It's only creating one circle, and it's supposed to create multiple circles. What else have I broken? Let's look at the rest of their code here. Okay. I used that function, but it only made one circle. Okay, let's see. It's actually creating a class, which is very nice. Oh, and now it's actually changed colors from hexadecimal to now, I guess, RGB. It's almost done. Cool. All right. So we're going to grab this. Oh, we had a class before, actually. So I'm just going to grab this, copy, paste that in. Although now we need to find canvas before, because we have used it in a couple of places. Now let's refresh the page and refresh the page here. Cool. Alright, so we got a little thing. So now what we want to do is put that. So that really took over like the home of the page. So if I change this 20px, height, let's change this to width 50px, 50 pixels, height 50 pixels. Okay. And then I'm going to change the size of this to do this like that. And I think what I need to do is change the size. Scale back to step. That. Radius is 30. Okay, so let's ask it, if I want to make the circles larger, how would I do that? You can adjust the initial radius for each circle in the following example. Increase the base radius from 30 to 50. Okay, so we want base radius. Okay, so now let's change this to 200. This page, refresh this. Let's change this to 400 now. Okay, not the prettiest animation in the world, but not bad. And then we click on it. And we get our summary of the page. The one issue right now with these buttons is they're absolute, which means that text can go over them. So to get around that, for now, I'm just going to change the border radius. Well, the button here, actually, I can change the top to be minus 15px, Oh, that's too much. Let's change this to 0. Okay, so we're just going to come here, change the closes here, the close buttons here from the top to 0. This one at the top of the close button to 0. Let's see, domain. See, we've got this thing there too. I've changed this now, so it's. Oh, I've already changed. The top is that. So I'm just going to change this div to be padding 20 pixels. Actually, when I did that, did it go? Yeah, no, I'll do 20 pixels. 20 pixels. For this pop-up to be 20 pixels. Cool. Close this. What happened to that one? But yeah, so now let's go to a example research paper. So let's go to an example. Here we go. An archaeology research paper. Here we go. Oh, you see, annoyingly, they've actually got this bot in the way. So what we can do for our bot is we can make our bot z-index to be really high, so it appears above anything else. So I'm just going to change the z-index of this to be really high. And then what we can do is we can click on this, and now this giant paper, which might take a bit of time, because that was a lot of content to send over. What we might want to do is have it so that when you click it, it changes to like a loading animation. Instead, let's see if it's still going. There you go. So we could set the maximum limit of this to something else if we wanted to, but at the very least for now, let's say I wanted to look at archaeology. I don't know what archaeology is. So they've actually said archaeology is the study of, interesting enough, pretty close to start with. But there you have it. So our original design, if we go back to that, was to have, you do a selection and you can see that area, and then you've got this little widget here, and you can create a summary of the page. So there's definitely some tweaks that we can obviously make too, but yeah, in a relatively short period of time, we were able to build a Chrome extension that did exactly what we wanted to. So if you enjoyed this, please feel free to follow for more. Add a comment down below for additional things you think I could do. In particular, what I can do better, as this is the first one of these that I'm doing. But thank you very much for watching, and here's to seeing where ChatGPT and other technologies move us in the future.